us the #1 school of pharmacy in the U.S. Thank you so much. The first slide that you're seeing is the title of our talk today, which is Deep Roots, Strong Branches, Growing into the Future, How to Take Calculated Risk Using Your Skills. This picture kind of represents 100 years of taking risk. We have always adapted to changing times, and this picture represents just two of the 4 stores that we have had in Whiteville, North Carolina since the 1900s. We've actually moved 4 times. The picture to your left is the second store, still downtown. It's actually, we still own the building. It's a restaurant now, but the picture to your right is actually our new pharmacy. I say new, we've been in there probably 10 years, but we've adapted to changing times over the years, and we're very proud of that. So we'd like to show you in the next slide a video just that kind of gives you an overview of where we've come and where we're going. And it describes our process from moving from McNeill's Pharmacy to what is now Liberty Healthcare. Here's it. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an overview of what we are today. This screen actually shows you kind of where we've come from. The top row shows you our great-great-grandfather, John McNeill, our grandfather, George McNeill, our dad, John McNeill, myself, and Sandy, all registered pharmacists. And we continue to own one of the oldest pharmacies in North Carolina. We'd also like to say that we are very proud to say that many of our siblings, all of our siblings actually, and spouses, and many of our children are all involved in the business. I think 17 or 18 at this point are involved in operating Liberty in some aspect of Liberty Healthcare. We'd also like to say, and it didn't have this in the screen, but one of the other segments of our business is McNeill's Long-Term Care Pharmacy. So between long-term care pharmacy, McNeill's Pharmacy, and Liberty Medical Specialties, we employ over 30 pharmacists and probably too many to count pharmacy technicians, and we're very, very proud of that. So a little bit of our history, that just briefly, our family started in 1875. Our grandfather was a physician, and he became a dispensing physician because there were not a lot of medicines available at that time. So he grew a lot of his own herbs and things like that, and actually compounded a lot of his own prescriptions. They started out in Hope Mills. Eventually, they found their way to Whiteville, North Carolina. And that's the picture of the brick building that you saw earlier. Our grandfather was born in the early 1900s, and so he became a pharmacist from Page's School of Pharmacy. Then later on, our dad was born in 1918. He was a proud graduate of the University of North Carolina. And then down the road, of course, there were 6 siblings, Sandy being the oldest. He's also a pharmacy graduate of UNC, and then I later graduated from UNC. Some of the interesting things that Sandy and I've been talking about earlier that Dad would tell us as we were growing up. This was one story that he had. He actually wanted to become a botanist when he went to Carolina, but he said the realities of the Depression helped him steer his career back towards pharmacy. And he said the 1940 discovery of groundbreaking medicines also had an impact on his decision. He said on graduation day, the dean at the pharmacy school called all the seniors together into the office and informed them that scientists had just discovered sulfonamides, a group of drugs that would prevent infections. And the dad said they were just so excited about this big leap forward in modern medicine. And Dad always told us that totally changed pharmacy. He said, because we were practically practicing witchcraft at that time. There just were not a lot of options for medications. So the discovery proved timely, as sulfur powder soon made its way into the first aid kits of GIs going into World War II. And Dad said that saved countless of lives. So a lot of our story from our family is about changing times and taking risk. And I'm going to turn it over to Sandy and let him talk a little bit about his journey from our degree in pharmacy to where he is now.
Thank you, Mary. We discussed this earlier and decided to have this in the form of a conversation between us about our family and about the journey that we have taken. It is a family journey. It is interesting to think, for me to think back on how this all came to pass. I have to say that in my years in pharmacy school, Chapel Hill and before, had no idea what all this would be and become. I think I hoped to have a house to live in and to have a pharmacy to work in, and I expected to do that and grow old. And that's not how it worked out. And I think what's important for you guys is to know how life changes. You cannot predict the future. You have to prepare yourself for a wide range of opportunities and be ready to take those opportunities when they come your way. And I think if I look back on my memory of being at Chapel Hill, which I graduated in 72, that is what I think I received from Chapel Hill, was the understanding not just of how to practice the science of pharmacy, but to understand how to navigate the modern world, and the people that we came in touch with together there, that we grew up with, the fellow students, the fraternity members, whatever they were, they all chose courses in life that were highly affected by the education, the broad education that we all received from Chapel Hill, and that continues to be the case. I think over these 50 years since then, the continuation of all the things that the university does, continuing education for pharmacy and all the other types of programs, they all continue to enhance the learning, which is a never-ending process. And so I think I would hear that when I was younger, and I think now how important and true it is that life is a constant process of learning, and to continue to take risks, which is what we started doing. And everybody takes risks. A risk or something that you intuitively take when you cross the street or you get up in the morning. But taking business risk and financial risk when you don't necessarily have the financial means to do that is a leap of faith. And I think that you have to do that based on your ability to believe you can complete it, at least have a chance to complete it. And therefore to you as the entrepreneurial person trying to do that, you have faith. You have an inner faith that you can make it work. When I bought my first drugstore, uh, we it was closed. It was a small drugstore near Whiteville, and it actually had closed. Um, I was 20, I think 24 years old at the time, when just turned 24, and just gotten a pharmacy license a few months before, after working a year after pharmacy school, and had been working in other retail drugstores for people on their day off. Most drugstores back then were independents, or chains really hadn't hit the scene yet. And so, I was working in 6 different drugstores, so got a lot of experience working for different pharmacists and understanding each thing they did to make their store competitive. So I bought this store, my wife and I did, and the family got together a $50,000 loan, meaning the bank loaned us the money on everybody's signature, and we started out. And so I started the drugstore, and we were working in there, 80 hours a week. You couldn't afford to take off. You couldn't fill enough prescriptions to make it profitable. Was wondering what to do. So somebody came one day and said, "Why don't you start selling wheelchairs and hospital beds?" And so I did. And then they said, "Well, you rent them and then take assignment from Medicare." Medicare started in '68. The gray end of America had really just begun back then, if you will. And of course, now it's a rapidly changing ocean wave that's coming across rapidly across this country, and it's changing all of healthcare. Uh, Healthcare is going to change from a fee-for-service world to a risk-taking world uh, where you. I think what we need to understand is that it won't be a world in healthcare where you will just say, "I want this fee for this service." You will have to take a risk on the outcome. So you have to understand the whole potential healthcare picture of an individual or a group to know how to take those risks. And so when I speak about risk, that's what I'm trying to get at, is you have to be in-depthly educated into many different areas, not just one thing. So when I sort of got into the medical equipment part and was still filling prescriptions at the time, trying to deliver hospital beds at night with my wife and my father in a pickup truck. And then we hired one guy, and then we hired more people, and it began to grow. But it was a business where you had to go out there and do something that had not been done before. You had to take risk, and you did not know how it was going to turn out. Sometimes you won, sometimes you lost. You had to keep trying at it, and hopefully you did more right than you did wrong. And as time went by, the business continued to grow. We kept taking risk and add more locations, serving more parts of the state for the medical home needs of patients. This was more, again, outside of pharmacy directly. Pharmacy was a part of this, but most of this growth that I was experiencing in this company we had built called Medicare Supply Company was durable medical equipment, oxygen, and respiratory equipment that we were delivering into people's homes. They were also taking meds, obviously, but as times were changing, we were not able to compete in that area. So we had to choose what we could do, which was the medical equipment part. That was during that time was the rise of the chains and the discount drug programs. So many people were doing that already, much larger than us. So we chose something that we could do that was healthcare related. It was an opportunity that Medicare had provided, having come into the picture about '68, and that by taking assignment, renting equipment, delivering it to people, offering all these services for healthcare in the home, that we had our major growth. And that went on for about, it was the beginning of it, but for me, it lasted about 10 years, from my early 20s till my early 30s. I lost my wife and I lost our oldest son. And so I was sort of sidelined, if you will. My brother Ronald came back. He was an engineer, an MBA. We began growing, looking for businesses to operate and expand. And we got into a company called PPD. It was in Wilmington. It only had 12 employees at the time. We started that business and we're trying to get it going. And the guy that had started it, all you guys will know, Fred Eshelman, came back a year later, and the business took off dramatically after that, and thousands to 10,000 employees. And then by 95, it became a public company, and we were not involved with it anymore except on the board level. And we moved on into back to more direct home care type services. And we built our new pharmacy. We then got into nursing homes and home health care and hospice care. So all these forms of care in the home, who we had done business with these people for years, we decided to get into those businesses, and pharmacy was the main factor that gave us the insight into what was there and what we could do. It's how we had the knowledge. And where did you get the knowledge of that? Well, pharmacy was what brought that knowledge to me. We were able to understand how to make that work, because so much of it was based on the same mechanisms for reimbursement that pharmacy was based on. So I think that's the important tie that I want you to understand. It's what do I get out of my pharmacy degree at Chapel Hill? Well, it's a broad understanding of healthcare. And then while I was there, I was able to work in the hospital, and they have programs. I'm sure some of you guys are doing that. So you take advantage of every type of practice setting that you can find, whether it be hospital, institutional type pharmacy in hospitals, or manufacturing opportunities, or clinical drug trial companies like the one we got into with PPD. I mean, I had no experience with that. We understood, because of the basic education that I'd received at Chapel Hill, what to do and how to do this. I didn't know the technical parts of it, certainly not the financial parts of it, but we learned all that. And so we had an opportunity to be able to go in a number of different directions because of the broad education in pharmaceutical sciences that we had received at Chapel Hill. And I have to say, there were many times when I was up there that I wondered, what am I ever going to learn about? What am I ever going to get out of this? I mean, why am I learning this? When will I ever use this? Well, daggone it, I found out. We got into PPD and began with approaching manufacturers about their new drugs. It was amazing how much information that we had learned in school was viable for new compound research and understanding what's going on and how to put that together and how meticulous it is. And so we were fortunate. We did that worked for a few years, and then we moved on and continued to build nursing homes, buy nursing homes, build assisted living communities, add services for home care and hospice. We're into all kinds of things related to that now. We also have, with the change that's gone on from fee-based services to risk-taking type services, we've started what's called a Medicare Advantage program, ISNP, special needs program, for all the care from Medicare for people in our nursing homes. And we're now expanding that out into the home. And we think that is the future of healthcare, that you're trying to keep people from having an acute illness or acute episode, if you can prevent it, if you can see it coming and do things to prevent that acute ER admission, that type thing, that is the goal of the future. And to take risk that you financially take to attempt to prevent a worse outcome or a more expensive setting from having to be used. So, Mary, I'd throw it back to you for a few minutes to let you talk about some of the things you have seen.
Yeah. So from my experience in pharmacy school, when I got out, Sandy was just beginning to get into the Medicare Supply Company days. I came home from school. I went to work in our family-owned pharmacy for a little while, and then as his business grew, he got involved in home care, and so he ended up buying a company called Comprehensive Home Health, and that led to me getting calls about, well, why don't you think about doing home infusion? And at that time, and we talked a little bit about that in school, but we had compounded some, but not a great deal. And so I was really interested in that, and it really fit into what Sandy was doing. And so I started learning about it, went to classes, ended up opening a home infusion pharmacy at that point, and that's the career path that I ended up taking. I also went to work after Sandy sold Medicare Supply Company. I went to work for Foster Medical, who was the one that bought Medicare Supply at the time. And I was a regional director for the pharmacy for like 4 states for a few years. And then eventually went to work for another local North Carolina company in 1993. My husband and I said, you know what? We've been around the block enough. I think we're going to open up our own place. So I remember calling Sandy on a Friday afternoon and saying, would you back us? We're going to quit our jobs today and open up a new business. Talk about taking risk. That was a big one, but we had really, we'd been working in that business for a long time and felt like we knew it. And I knew that we had Sandy's backing, and so we took that leap of faith, and it's proved to be. Actually, this year we will be celebrating 30 years in business. So Liberty Medical Specialties, my husband, we've worked together our whole lives, which is a long time, 50 years it seems like. But he runs the DME part of our business and oxygen, all that. We also provide all the supplies for all the nursing homes. So we're sort of like a hub business for the Liberty Continuum. We do all the home infusion for the home care patients. The McNeill's long-term care pharmacy does all the compounding for all the nursing home patients. We're kind of side by side, but it has proved to be a very rewarding profession for me. And it's one of those things that I wouldn't have known about it had it not been for Sandy getting into the business that he did. And we've had a very rewarding time with it. So that's a little bit of my journey of what we've done. I think Sandy and I are very proud of the fact, as I mentioned earlier, that so many of our family members are involved in the business. I think we said 18 different members of the family are in key roles in the company, and I think our parents would be very, very proud of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's our family was always very close, worked together, respected what each other did. So as needs came along, different family members basically said, well, you know what, I can do that. And they took it and went and did it. And there was a lot of discussions, but it was more like the blind leading the blind.
That's right.
We learned together.
We did.
And each person took a skill set they had and enlarged that. And I just, for example, there's one for every part of the business, but one I would tell you about, of course, Ronnie, he's a chemical engineer, an MBA, and I mean, he understands everything very methodically and analyzes all these things to the nth degree, the banks say, we don't do this level of detail. You guys are doing more detailed level of analysis than we would do. For example, another area of our senior living group, my son-in-law, Will Purvis, married my daughter, Jenny. He came to work with us about 10, 12 years ago and said, what is this independent living thing you guys have got? I think we can build a bunch of those. So now we've got about 15 of these huge senior living communities across the Southeast, and they're now building another product called Active Adult, which is like an apartment project for seniors, no children. Everybody pretty much is 55 plus. But that is a future thing that we are putting near our nursing homes so that when people, as they age, can live near their spouse. If their spouse needs care and they don't, they're able to live near them, for example, or they can receive care from a home health agency in that dwelling, and it's a value based thing where financially people have either don't own a home or have sold their home and want to move somewhere else near their children, etc. It's a product that we think is going to grow into the future. So I think that's the point I'm trying to really make to you guys the most, is that what you think is going to be what you do when you get out of school probably is not going to be exactly what you're doing 5 years from now. And you need to keep your mind open to that and be prepared for it. And I think, again, that's what the education at Chapel Hill, that's what I think we got from that, Mary, yes, was that broad understanding of how to, I had to take a risk to go study for a test. Usually it didn't come out well.
Yes.
But, I'm just saying that, the concept of understanding that and the trust and the faith that you could do it. And I think that's what you learn when you're in school, is by going through the program and graduating, you have a basic faith in yourself that you can complete these things, and your understanding level is equal to anybody's. And so if you avail yourself of all the opportunities that are given to you in the practice settings, then you have a very broad ability to perform in different areas. And that is something that I don't think that I realized. I thought when I was there, I was going to go be a retail pharmacist in a retail drugstore, and that's what I expected to do. And I didn't do that but a year.
Yeah, I didn't either. And I think our dad thought, oh, we have two of the 6 children. They're going to be pharmacists and are going to come back and run McNeill's pharmacy. And actually, neither one of us did that for very long. I did a little while. I think you did too, but not very long at all. We pursued our own goals.
And that was what the family allowed Dad, his vision of how to do things. We had a Boy Scout troop. Mother had a Girl Scout troop. Everybody, was taught to be involved and to lead, to take risks, to be responsible for what you did. So one time when I applied for after I got my license, I applied for to run a drugstore inside of a grocery store. And after I told the man how at 23 I was going to run the store, he didn't call me back. So I didn't apply for any more jobs after that because I figured I was not going to be employable. It was just something you learn as a young person about, this person wanted somebody who was going to do what he told them to do, right, not who was going to do what they thought they wanted to do as a young person. But I think, we had been taught to take risks, to be responsible for what you did, that if you failed, you had to accept that.
We had failures.
And we had failures. And we lived with them and made up for them and paid for them and went on. And you get up and keep going. And it certainly is when you hear about somebody who when you hear about all the things that somebody has done or has, you don't think about necessarily what all the things went on that they had to go through to get there. that were failures that they dealt with and found a way forward and around it and kept on going. And I'm not trying to be a motivational speaker. I'm just saying that when we talk about taking risks, it is not a no-brainer type thing where you just go do it. You get out there and you live and breathe it. The first 10 years that my wife and I had the medical supply company, I didn't draw a salary, couldn't draw a salary. We lived on her salary. And we had a heater in the bedroom, and that was the only heat we had in the house because we both worked, we weren't there.
Yeah.
But you take risk, you take responsibility for what you do, and you find opportunities in life, opportunities come along, and you have to make the decision that based on the education you have and the what you've learned how to do. In the case of you guys all being in pharmacy, there's many different areas that pharmacy touches today. That the understanding of prescription drugs is very important to the care of people, but it's also about the outcome and the cost of it. And I think that's what is different today, that with the expense of drugs and drug development, they have to have a value. There has to be a cost-based value to this, and that somewhere along the way, it's not just filling prescriptions for a certain fee and a certain markup and making a certain salary. It's understanding that the development of a drug or a service, a medical service, will have a beneficial outcome for the future of humans, and that the world can afford. And I think that's what you guys are, should open your eyes to where the next 50 years are going to be, with the number of seniors that are going to be out there needing care in the world, across the whole world. And that's manufacturing has that opportunity. Drug development certainly is part of that. But pharmacy is a key thing for every human being in the world. And so you are gaining an understanding of how to offer services to people that will have positive outcomes, beneficial outcomes, financially affordable outcomes for people, for years and years to come. So, I mean, I wish I was 10 or 20 years younger at 75 just to be able to see some of this happen. But we were kind of the beginning of the baby boomer generation. And so we came along, and now it's like a tidal wave of people coming across the country and the world that are, needing healthcare services. And pharmacy is uniquely positioned to understand how to help deliver those services in a financial way that is viable for the future.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, like Sandy said, you have so many opportunities, and you're so fortunate to be able to have like these lecture series, to be able to hear people who have been in your seat and have gone on to become very successful in what they do and what they love. And I think Sandy and I both can say we love what we do. And we are so thankful to our roots in pharmacy and for what we learned in pharmacy school. And we're also so excited to see what the pharmacy profession is going to be in the future. You guys have so much potential. So soak it all in while you're there, because you're in the number one place in the United States to get it.
Short tenure of time that it goes by fast. I know the days sometimes can seem long, but when you look back, it's amazing how short a time it is. But maximize those opportunities, because the opportunities for the future for you guys are just extraordinary.
Yes. And we're going to stop, and if you have questions for us, we'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
Well, I want to thank you very much for an excellent tag team of presentations. And I know I wrote myself a bunch of notes and have some questions, but I first want to turn it over to the students to see if they have any questions.
I had a question regarding how you guys have grown, and considering the risks you've taken, I guess as you're growing a business and seeking feedback on different ideas and looking to take those risks, how do you recognize good advice versus bad advice? Because I feel like there's a lot of scared people out there, and I don't always know whether it's good advice to listen to them and scale back, or whether it's just them being scared and projecting on me.
Well, I mean, I'll give you a candid comment about that. If the person giving me the advice is going to achieve a financial reward for giving it to me, I'm very leery. So I've pretty much taken advice only from people that I felt like I would benefit from, and they were giving it to me in a sincere way, and not in a way that they necessarily were going to financially benefit from what I did. They might possibly, but I also benefit as well. And I think that's just the way I do things in general with regard to financial matters. We do hear all kinds of things come our way, not necessarily in healthcare. And we have learned, I think, over time that our best risks have been those that we stayed in some form of healthcare as opposed to getting areas that we did not know anything about. So that's probably the two areas I think about would be more learn. If you really want to do something, learn about it first. There's a lot of things you don't know when you start out, but from our perspective as being trained in healthcare, there are lots and lots of opportunities that you will intuitively understand and know who to reach out to receive, risk instructions or comments, advice, things that people can tell you that you would intuitively understand or be able to confirm with someone else to know that you felt comfortable taking the risk. This concept of risk that I talked about here, it's got many facets. But one of them basically is sooner or later you're going to fail.
Yes.
And you have to recognize, be willing to fail. But if you do fail, you try to get up and keep going, and you try to do everything in the world you can not to fail. I mean, never give up is the bottom line. I mean, there's a point where obviously you have to make a trade-off, but you have to have a toughness about it that once you make a commitment to something, you are totally committed to it, and you give it day and night, just like you guys do in school. We did in school, up all night before exam, whatever it took. You did it, and that's what I think we're trying to say about risk taking and determination. All those types of things I think are hallmarks in our family that we were taught by our parents, and that's you didn't know any other way.
Yeah, I think you surround yourself with people that you trust. And I think you have to really listen to your instincts too. Like Sandy said, you do have to go outside of your comfort zone a little bit sometimes, but I think you need to stay in the same lane of what you know. And I think that's what we've learned is when we've tried to go outside of healthcare in our business opportunities, they've not necessarily worked out for us the best way. So we sort of stay in our lane, but we also talk it out amongst each other. We trust each other's opinion, and I think you surround yourself with people that you can talk to.
As a family, I think Mary, some of the holiday events, I think you said we had to have a zone.
We have to have a safe zone.
A safe zone where we don't talk about business, because intuitively the family gets together and we all huddle up in different groups, and it's all for some form of the business discussion.
Yeah.
And we end up throwing in parts about the family as part of that. But it's the whole family is so engrossed in what we do. And as Mary said, we love it. We love being in it. I've told my children that when you hear a thud down there in my office someday and I'm not there anymore, I'm happy. Don't worry about it. Go back to work. And I think that is that is an important thing in life, be in a where you are happy enough with what you do every day and you feel good enough about it that you want to go back and do it. I was at Chapel Hill a few months ago for my annual checkup by one of the heads of the department up there, and sort of at 74 and a half, threw that question out there to him. And he said, well, are you happy with what you do every day? And I said, yes, I am. He said, well, keep on doing it. So Daddy kept his license till he was 98. He didn't actually practice in the store, but he had his license. I think the pharmacy license is an important thing. I would encourage all you guys to always keep your license. I know I've got some of my friends that were in school with me at 75 that are not keeping their license current anymore, but it's a valuable asset and to stay in time. And so in terms of, it's something you work that hard for, always keep it active, and make sure you do the right thing. There'll be many opportunities in life for all you guys to have unique things happen, just like what we've had happen. And I think we're very excited about what pharmacy will be for the next 50 years and beyond. I mean, the drug discovery part, the growth of need by a number of humans in the world, the cost control needs, all the ways to find ways forward to get good outcomes for people that are financially viable with as many people as are going to be in the world. And we've seen the rise of the chains, the drugstore chains. We talked about that. They rose up and sort of killed the independent, if you will. And there's been a few independents that have made it, but by and large, it was all independent retail stores 50 years ago. The chains came along, the corner, and they grew dramatically. Now it's a mail order. And so, who knows what, opportunities you'll find with that, for example. So I just think there's many opportunities.
Yeah. So I know we got a little off on that, question, but are there other questions to come up?
Well, I have just one sort of final one. You both talked about preparing yourselves for unexpected opportunities. And we have a variety of different pharmacy students representing first year all the way to third years. Any thoughts that you would have for them? How do they prepare now for unexpected opportunities into the future that they don't even know what they might present themselves as?
Well, I think that's what I was trying to touch on that earlier. As I said, there were courses I took that I could see no benefit for what I was doing, and I wasn't that interested in them. And then later on, as the different practice settings. I mean, for me, going from retail to and I worked at the hospital at Duke while I was in school and learned a lot about direct care. They didn't have what pharmacy is today. Is more clinical, much more clinical than it was when we were there, when I was there. It changed.
Yes.
And now the future for pharmacists is a clinical opportunity that frankly just didn't exist 50 years ago. It changed, and when that came along, I was down the road with other things, more business oriented. So it was not opportunistic for me to go back and get more clinical training. Right. But I think there's obviously a huge opportunity in the future for the clinical side, and then for mass opportunities for understanding the need and cost of all medical care and how to handle that in a world where there's going to be more people maybe than there is money to care for all the people and give so that it'll be, we imagine maybe 10, 20 years from now, there will be things done or I should say, the way it will be managed will be to try to not do heroic measures, expensive therapies, when there's no perceived benefit to be had from it, and or the cost is a factor. And we don't want to talk about that really, but it is out there in the future, especially in undeveloped countries.
Well, I want to personally thank both of you for joining us. I think your story is one that we hope future alumni of the School of Pharmacy will build upon, whereby they take advantage of opportunities. And I really like what you had on here about taking educated risk and leveraging what their training is into the future. So thanks for all you do for the School of Pharmacy and being a longtime friend and supporter of the school, as well as spending some time today sharing your experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.